Soils for food security and climate. Human activities release enormous quantities of carbon dioxide, CO2, into the atmosphere. This intensifies the greenhouse effect and accelerates climate change. Every year, plants recover 30% of CO2 thanks to their process of photosynthesis. Later, when the plants die and decompose, living organisms in the soil such as bacteria, fungi, and earthworms transform them into organic matter. This carbon-rich organic matter is essential for human food because it holds water, nitrogen, and phosphorus, which are essential to the growth of plants. The world's soil contains 2 to 3 times more carbon than the atmosphere. Increasing this storage of carbon by 0.4% per year, or 4 parts per thousand, in the top 30 or 40 centimetres of the soil could stop the increase of CO2 in the atmosphere. This is the proposal of the 4 parts per thousand Soils for Food Security and the Climate Initiative. The increase in carbon storage in soils would therefore contribute not only to stabilising the climate, but also to ensuring food security, that is, the supply of sufficient food for all people. How can it be carried out? Policy measures must be established to reduce deforestation and encourage ecological farming practices that boost the amount of organic matter in soils and meet the 4 parts per thousand every year objective. Examples would be: avoid leaving the soil bare, so as to limit carbon loss. Restore crops, pastures and degraded forests. Plant trees and legumes that have the ability to fix atmospheric nitrogen in the soil. Use manure and composts to nourish the soil, or allow water to collect at the base of plants. Who is targeted? There are 570 million farms in the world and more than 3 billion people living in rural areas that could implement these practices. At what cost? To restore agricultural soils, it would cost a few dozen dollars per hectare. However, agroforestry and the renewal of forests would require more investments. And for how long? The sequestration of carbon in soil would continue for 20 to 30 years after the good farming practices are put in place, provided these practices are maintained. Under the 4 parts per thousand initiative, researchers are coming together with farmers, associations, economic stakeholders, regions and countries for the purpose of food security and climate.